All right, it's our first video back on the Redraft channel.
Come on,
Do
baby.
us a massive favor. Go ahead and smash that like button. We have no idea how this video is going to do after the channel has been dormant for half a year or so. So show some love, drop a like, drop a comment. Let us know what wide receiver you're most excited about drafting in 2023 for redraft leagues. That's what we're doing. We're giving you our top 24 to 25 to
Come on,
26,
baby.
27 wide receiver rankings for PPR redraft leagues.
That's right.
We're going to look at 5 tiers. If you want our rankings for redraft, both, one quarterback, super flex, if you want access to a personalized DM where you can get advice from us this year for fantasy, go ahead and use our code LAND at flockfantasy.com/land. That will give you 30% off your membership. And if you choose that Mother Flocker tier, you're going to get some personalized advice. Okay, so let's start with the 5th tier. We'll go up to the 1st tier, and I think it should be said from the very beginning that these rankings will change quite drastically.
Oh, 100%.
It's as we're recording this, 2nd week of May.
Yeah.
So these rankings are going to change for sure.
Yeah.
This is just where we currently have these players ranked. People will go up, they will go down. We'll get a lot more information leading up to the season. But this is fun to at least, for the first time, see where some of these wide receivers, we don't need to worry like Dynasty about age or contracts or anything. We just need to think about this year only. So let's start in the 5th tier. Tell me some names that you got here in tier number 5.
Okay. I'm very interested to see how we view everyone here. So first one I have here is Mike Williams. Do you have him in this tier?
So Mike Williams is one of those that I think should be ranked, but he's right outside my tier 5.
Okay. Okay. That's
with
good.
Quentin Johnston coming in, I think Mike Williams will have a safe role starting, but one of my floor comps for Quentin Johnston was Mike Williams. So he's a player I'm probably not going to have much of, and maybe that's just me not valuing him enough in my rankings at this very moment.
Sure.
Again, it's very, very early, but Quentin is my floor comp for him was Mike. So I hear you. I'm not insinuating that Mike will be irrelevant, but I'm insinuating that long term, I'm not sure what the true ceiling is anymore.
And I think this is a hard part because we've been in Dynasty so long trying to separate these two. It might be a little bit difficult. But yeah, I have Mike here. I also have Deontay Johnson here in this tier.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Not sure where you have him.
I don't have Deontay Johnson ranked
either
in the top 5. He's another one of those like Mike. Look, I just project a bigger role for George Pickens this year, and me not having Deontay in my top 24 rankings isn't that I don't like him. It's that I couldn't tell you who's going to be more valuable between Deontay and George Pickens this year. I know Deontay's been peppered with targets, but
and I think
So I don't really want a lot of Deontay if he's going to be ranked as a top 24 wide receiver.
For sure. And I think that's where I'm kind of projecting him. I think he's still going to be peppered with those targets. We haven't seen George Pickens pepper with those targets as of yet. Obviously, it was his first year and everything that was happening, or technically. He only had 84 targets, something like that, 85 targets. Deontay still had it. Probably wasn't as efficient as he was the year before, but Kenny Pickett going to a whole nother year. I'm really excited about that, and I think that's what I'm kind of projecting Kenny Pickett to be a lot more.
I hear you.
A lot more consistent.
I would just say, though, on Pickens, it's important to remember that what the expectations were before the season versus what he accomplished.
For sure.
Before the season, people were saying he might not even beat Claypool out as a wide receiver 3. He ends the year, as the clear wide receiver 2. Who knows what happens in his second year, whereas Deontay stepped in and he was already the established guy. So
okay.
I hear you, but I'm not anti-Deontay. I'm not anti-Mike. They're just not people I have in my top 24. I prefer others, but who else do you have then?
I also have another guy that I know you probably have him higher, and that's Treylon Burks in my tier 5.
I don't have Treylon Burks in my top 24.
Okay. Wow. There you go. So
I think, we're gonna have a lot of discussions, about where these players should go.
You know what we should?
I guess we
potentially do is why don't we put all the players maybe you have in tier 5, and then we can go and be like, okay, I have him in this spot, and then we can kind of talk about it. It could be a little bit. It could be a little bit easier.
Okay. So DeAndre Hopkins, I have in my tier 5,
Mm-hmm.
and that might be too low, but we can have a conversation about that in a second. I am not sure how much I want to invest in him if he's staying in Arizona and Colt McCoy is going to be the quarterback. Brandon Ayuk, I have in my tier 5.
Mm-hmm.
I've got Drizzy Drake London. Ayuk was the wide receiver 15 in points per game, or sorry, overall last year. And I think he's being undervalued right now from what I've seen from other people's redraft rankings. But I currently have him, I guess, higher than consensus. Drake London, I'm expecting a bigger sophomore season. Great analytics last year point towards him being more involved. I have DJ Moore in this tier 5.
Yeah. Okay. That's one I have.
DJ Moore is a wide receiver that he's going to be the focal point of his team. It's not going to be a pass heavy offense, but the reason I have no interest in like Darnell Mooney per se is because I think DJ Moore is going to be the clear guy. He's going to be, your Stephon Diggs. I'm not comparing Josh Allen and Justin Fields, but that's kind of like he will be the dude in that offense. I also have Calvin Ridley here in this tier 5. I think Calvin Ridley is going to have an absolute dominant season here. The last time he played a full healthy season, he was a wide receiver 5. I know that's been a while, but guess what? He hasn't taken the hits that everyone has. His body is fresh. He's ready to go. On an ascending offense, I have Jerry Jeudy in my tier 5. I think Jeudy will be the highest targeted player in the Denver Broncos offense with Sean Payton there. Thinking about what Sean Payton did for Michael Thomas, I'm excited to see what Jerry Jeudy can do. He's probably not going to be as good as Michael Thomas in his prime, of course, but because that's unrealistic. I mean, that would be record setting, but I think he's going to be a top 20 or so wide receiver. I mean, even if you look at last year, Jerry Jeudy back half of the season was a top 6, 7 wide receiver, and now you add Sean Payton. He finished as a wide receiver 22 in one of the worst offenses we saw last year. What's going to happen with Sean Payton there? And the last person that I had in this tier was Christian Watson.
Okay, that's good.
Who I'm excited about. We obviously still have some concerns about what quarterback play will look like with Jordan Love long term. But at the same time, I don't see a receiving threat that's going to take away targets from him. He should be the number one target in this offense. And based off of volume alone, you add that to a couple big plays here and there. I think he's a great play. A little bit better play in best ball, but in redraft, I'm still going to put him in this tier 5 here.
Okay. So I think we're on the same page along the line. Obviously, I probably have, I had the other two players that we talked about, Mike Williams and then Deontay Johnson here.
Yeah.
The one player I also have in this tier that we haven't spoken about as at the moment is Michael Pittman. I'm expecting him to take a massive step back here. As much as we love Anthony Richardson, I doubt he's going to be maintaining a fantasy relevant wide receiver like Michael Pittman. I think we have to lower our expectations in the first year, and he may not be a guy I want to be pillaring my wide receiver room, whether that's wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. Great for Dynasty if Michael Pittman does get a contract extension, but right now I think I want to avoid Michael Pittman because it's kind of the unknowns, right? And we haven't. Anthony Richardson didn't do much in college. We're still talking about his accuracy, his touch. How is that going to work out? And I'm not sure if I want to lean on Michael Pittman. So he is.
Michael Pittman is not ranked for me.
Okay.
He's not in my top 24. It's kind of, we were talking on the Dynasty channel. I have some concerns around Josh Downs being drafted early second round. I'm not anti Josh Downs. I just think he's being drafted too high in rookie drafts. And again, just thinking about what this offense will look like this year, I don't think there's going to be. I picture this offense being a bottom 5 pass attempt per game offense, and I just don't think that there's going to be enough targets and opportunity to go around to make a bunch of people relevant. I think Michael Pittman will be the highest scorer, but it's really tough to get all in on that offense from a receiving point of view, from a rushing point of view, from Anthony Richardson being a great sleeper this year, from Jonathan Taylor recovering, I'm all in. But with Pittman,
right.
I struggle to see, if we're gonna model that offense after Jalen Hurts, after
for sure
Justin Fields, I just don't see a lot of volume in the passing game there, so I don't have him ranked personally.
I hear you. The main differences that I do have, I have Jerry Jeudy in tier 4. I have DeAndre Hopkins in tier 4, and that is it. So
Okay.
those are the two main differences. So in kind of what you alluded to about Jerry Jeudy, it was a worse offense last time. Insert Sean Payton. I do believe him taking and this offense being more consistent than both everyone, Russell Wilson, Jerry, all taking the next step. And I feel really comfortable taking Jerry here and putting him in my fourth tier and DeAndre Hopkins. And I understand that the question is, when is Kyler Murray going to come back? I mean, from when I was doing the research, reports saying he's on pace for week 1. When is that? Is that truly true? We don't know, right? But if that is the case and Kyler Murray is back week 1, I think we can have a different conversation. And this is kind of what I'm projecting, and this is why he is in my tier 4. But I think the person I'd rather advocate for would be Jerry Jeudy if we're doing that. But we don't have to really go through going through tiers since it's the first one. This is the first one, so let's just kind of ride it out, see what it looks like for everyone.
I'm fine with that. The context I brought with DeAndre was that Kyler Murray would not be playing for at least half the year.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen those reports that you've seen, so I could be wrong. So if Kyler's actually going to play week 1, that would change everything. I just haven't heard that, but doesn't mean that it's not going to happen.
For sure.
And we'll get more information on that as we get closer to the year, I'm sure. The only other player that I had here in tier 5, and I would rather have this player than Michael Pittman, Jordan Addison.
Okay.
I would rather have Jordan Addison year 1 than Michael Pittman. Jordan Addison joins the Minnesota Vikings, which last year I think only 2 teams threw the ball more than the Minnesota Vikings. Dalvin Cook, if we're all honest, he's not a bad running back by any means, but he's not the same Dalvin Cook he was 3 years ago. And the offense with Kevin O'Connell has completely changed since he's joined the team. I don't see that changing here in year 2. I think Addison's going to have plenty of opportunities in an offense that is going to be firing on all cylinders. The defense is going to be bad. They're going to need Addison and Jefferson to have big years. So when I look at rookies that I think, Addison's the only one I had ranked in my top 5 tiers as a rookie. Doesn't mean he's my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty from the rookie class, but I think I've said this before on the Dynasty channel, I think he has the best opportunity to lead rookies in production this year.
Yeah.
And just looking at the offense identity for Indy and for Minnesota, I think I want to bet on Addison.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. I definitely hear you. Addison, I feel like in the clear pathways there, obviously Adam Thielen leaving over 100 targets in that wide receiver room. So, I agree with you. I would put Jordan Addison here in this top 24 if we did. I don't have any rookies ranked as well. So, but Jordan Addison will be the closest. I would say he will be the closest one for me, but I don't have any rookies ranked.
Okay, on to tier 4. You have Jerry Jeudy there. I'm happy to comply. I also have Terry McLaurin here. Terry last year, it's funny because I feel like 2 years in a row, Terry disappointed people based off of his preseason ADP, if that makes sense. People had him ranked as a top 12 guy. Last year, people had him ranked in the 20s. He finishes as wide receiver 14.
Yeah.
Now, the concern and the reason I don't have him in my top 14, kind of right around that late teen area, is that we have Sam Howell now, and I'm not suggesting that Sam Howell will be bad for this offense, but I don't think any of us truly know. So
exactly.
That's where I would put Terry. He's still going to demand the most targets, but Jahan is coming. I've got DK Metcalf here, and I'm not sure if this is too low or not.
I'm there with you, brother. I'm there with you, and I think the main reason is not necessarily that DK is going to be a bad wide receiver. It's just more like, okay, now you have Zach Charbonnet here, who everyone's predicting a 50-50 workload, more dump-off passes, and then also Jackson Smith and Jigba, who also demands targets. And what this is who's going to be leading this offense in targets and receptions? Yeah. And I think that question right there is really great because we have no idea. Right, yeah. We can all point to each and every DK, Tyler, JSN, but in reality, we really don't know. And I think DK goes back into this area to where it's like, well, maybe he's like in a void, or he's just a guy that's going to be at value for you, undervalued in probably the mid to late rounds in your redrafts leagues.
Yeah, he's a really tough one to wrap your head around. I think I don't have high expectations for JSN week 1, but I do think over the course of the year, he could develop a role where he's competing with Metcalf for wide receiver 1 opportunities. Yeah. And Metcalf is a receiver who already wasn't thriving off of targets. I mean, last year he was 18th in targets per game, I don't know that if you add the best wide receiver in the draft, in my opinion, you then, your targets go up. I think you lose a piece of that pie
For
slightly.
sure. For
But
sure.
Metcalf will still be very good. He'll still have these, 5 for 100 and 2 touchdown games. I just don't know that it will be as consistent as some of these other players that I have ahead of him.
Agreed.
But he was a really tough one to look at. I have Amari Cooper in this range.
Oh, okay. That's a first disagreement. Continue.
So do you have him higher or lower?
Have him higher.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay,
I'm pro Amari Cooper. I definitely am pro Amari Cooper. I currently have him ranked, let me double check, as my wide receiver 17. Last year, he was very good. He ended up as a wide receiver 10. But I think when you look at the splits with Deshaun Watson, there's still a lot of questions.
A lot of question marks for sure.
That top 10 finish was mostly Jacoby Brissett, as crazy as that sounds. Now, I do believe that Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper will be on the same page heading into this season, now that they've had an entire offseason to kind of prepare together. But I am not considering Amari over, the other names that I have in this tier 4, and that's why I find it difficult to put him in a tier higher. So yeah,
I definitely hear what you're saying, and I think I this is where my projection comes in, of where I believe Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper are going to be hitting it off, just like we've seen in the past with Deshaun and DeAndre, Deshaun and Will, whoever the case may be. And I think that's exactly where Deshaun is picking off. He gets the rust off for the past, year and a half, 2 years that he was off the field, plays a couple games, and now he has a full season with no hiccups. At least we hope and expect no hiccups. He's going to be practicing. He's going to be gaining chemistry. And not only do you have Elijah Moore now to help maybe relieve some opportunities away from or relieve some DBs away from Amari Cooper, hypothetically, but there's gonna be opportunities there for Amari Cooper to get more targets, more fantasy points, more touchdowns, and I think I really like that coming in. That's why he's in my tier 3, and I think he's gonna be a guy I could potentially see him pushing into the top 15, maybe even top 12. Leading up to the season.
I currently have him ranked as wide receiver 17. So where do you have him ranked then?
He's my 16.
Okay, so this might be. Does that mean that Amari's the last person
in that?
Does that mean you only have 3 in tier 4?
No, I think I don't have some people ranked as you do. I mean, unless I did it wrong. Yeah,
it's your rankings. I'm not saying that.
No,
you did it
I'm
wrong.
saying I guess I don't have.
I think our tiers might be set up differently.
Yeah, our tiers are set up differently, but okay, I see what happened. Because I can see that I misplaced one player. Okay, he is my wide receiver 17. So you're right. I am the same with you. He's my last player in this tier, and that is, yes, I do have actually one more player. So he's technically my 18.
I have a lot more players in this tier. Okay. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more wide receivers.
So let's see how it goes. And I think this is where it's confusing, because I need to understand.
So let's go through it then. I have Keenan Allen here.
Yep. I have him here as well.
Keenan Allen was very consistent once he got past that hamstring injury last year. He is an aging wide receiver who has had injuries, so we have to keep that in mind. But when he's on the field, he's never going to be like this wide receiver 1, but he's a lock as top 12 if he stays healthy with what he does over the middle of the field. I have Deebo Samuel here. Deebo, who's going to be the quarterback? I'm not sure who the quarterback's going to be, but regardless, Deebo and Ayuk and Deebo scored almost the same amount of points per game. I don't think Ayuk is just going away. And with Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey is playing the Deebo Samuel role now. It's not just Deebo's role. CMC has stepped into that role. So that is concerning to me. I don't know, if we're not going to get Deebo touching the ball 10 times a game anymore, it's CMC playing that role. And I know that they'll alternate, but CMC was the one dominating it last year. So I'm just a little bit concerned. I don't have him in this tier 3. I have Devonta Smith as well here, who definitely lit it up towards the end of the season. But if you guys remember, there were times in season where we weren't even sure if you could start Devonta Smith. So I think with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, there will still be that inconsistency. It's an incredible offense, but I don't think that they'll be as consistent as the players I have in tier 3. I have T. Higgins here. T. Higgins, is always averaging around 13, 14, 15 PPR points per game. But if we're honest with ourselves, he just doesn't have the Jamar Chase ceiling. And the last player that I have in this tier would be Chris Olave. Chris Olave linking up with Derek Carr. You can make a case for Olave being even higher than this, but at the moment, this is how I currently have it placed because the players I have in tier 3, I like from tier 3 onwards, it's like these are studs. Maybe you're getting them in the first or second round of your drafts.
Okay. So we definitely have done our tiers very differently.
Okay.
It's going to be difficult to really break it down. Okay.
Why don't I tell you what my tier 3 is, and then we'll have a conversation from then on.
Let's do that because maybe that can help out
the
conversation.
In my tier 3, I have Garrett Wilson. Now, come with me for a second. Garrett Wilson, offensive rookie of the year, right? Put up incredible numbers with really bad quarterback play. Enter Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, you already hear him talking about how both of these number 17s cut very similarly. They get open very similarly. Garrett Wilson, to me, I am not considering the other options on the board this year over Garrett Wilson. This is also where I would have Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle, again, if he's on the board, I'm not considering anyone in tier 4. I'm going Jalen Waddle. He was absolutely dominant with Tua on the field. In games where Tua was healthy, he was just ridiculously good. He finished wide receiver 8. Again, I would choose him over the other options in tier 4. A.J. Brown is where I have here in tier 3. I would choose A.J. Brown, again, with these tier 4 guys. If A.J.'s on the board, I'm not overthinking it. And the last one I have here is Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I guess I view this tier 3 as these elite, maybe not cream of the crop, the top, but they are guys that you're selecting in the first or second round. And then these tier 2 and 1 is just separating those first round wide receivers in my mind. So
okay. So once again, I think we just constructed our tiers very differently, because I have all those guys that you've spoken about in my tier 2. And yeah, it's going to be very difficult, I would say, to break down. So I have a Mon-Ra.
Okay, let's do this then. So why don't we? Let me just finish here, and then we'll see what yours look like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I have CeeDee Lamb in my tier 2, Devontae Adams in my tier 2, and Stephon Diggs in my tier 2.
Mm-hmm.
These would be the 3 wide receivers I would have there. Again, in my mind, the way I'm picturing this is my tier 1 is Justin Jefferson. That could be the first pick in the draft this year, potentially, right? Tyreek Hill, probably a top 6 pick. Cooper Kupp, I imagine, would be a top 6 pick like he was last year. If you look at Cooper Kupp on a points per game basis, he actually scored more points per game than anyone else. He was almost a full point ahead of Justin Jefferson before the injury. They've not really done anything this offseason that would suggest Cooper Kupp isn't going to be a star. And then the last person I have here would be Jamar Chase. So again, the way I kind of looked at my tiers was, okay, if I'm in the top 6 picks, the top 6 to 7 to 8 picks, those guys in tier 1, those are the guys that I'm picking. I think all of those guys have a chance to be wide receiver 1. Then I look at the tier 2. I guess you could probably put Diggs there in tier 1. But again, if you look at points per game, these guys in tier 1, outside of Jamar Chase, all the wide receivers in my tier 1 averaged over 20 points per game while averaging 10 plus targets per game. Stephon Diggs does not fit into that category, even though he's a great wide receiver. Devontae Adams, I have questions about Jimmy G and what this offense will look like. I still like him. And then CeeDee Lamb, he absolutely took a step up. He'll be a first round pick. He's deserving of it in rookie drafts. But again, I still prefer those guys in tier 1 over him. So this is how I broke down my tier. Again, tier 1, top 6 picks. I think we'll see a lot of wide receivers in the first round of redraft leagues this year. That tier 2 guys, those are the guys that I'm considering probably on the turn. Your 110 to your 203. Those tier 3 guys probably end up in the second round. And then tier 4 is kind of like round 3s to 4. Tier 5, round 6 to 7 is how I'm picturing it. So
how you picturing it?
That's how I had it laid out. That's what it would look like for me. But let's go ahead and hear how you're picturing it.
So in tier 1, I have all those same players, but I also have CeeDee Lamb and Stephon Diggs in my tier 1. And the way I'm envisioning it is, in the way I kind of broke down my tiers, are all these guys that are going to be, who I project that has an opportunity to be wide receiver 1 this year, right? And kind of like what Zach was alluding to, the points per game, you know, the offenses, everything that was happening, whether they brought in people, they didn't bring people in. They all somehow contribute in some way, whether it's Cooper Kupp can be wide receiver 1, Tyreek Hill, Chase, Diggs, CeeDee Lamb. And once again, projecting them to take a big step, someone like CeeDee Lamb that we haven't seen in that wide receiver 1 finish. I think
I would say we saw him take a huge step last year, so I'm with you.
And taking another one because now you lose Zeke.
Okay.
You get Brandon Cooks, et cetera, et cetera. So now my tier 2 are guys, you know, I would agree that these are the guys, you know, probably at the turn, because I would say this as well, that all those wide receivers, I truly believe we can see them going, we can have a wide receiver run really early. And I can potentially see 5 to 6 wide receivers going in the first. And maybe that sounds crazy, but maybe at the turn, maybe one of these guys go to the turn. So let's just say Stephon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb go at the 112 to the 201, right? And then at tier 2, the rest of the guys I have is A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra, Jalen Waddle, Garrett Wilson, Devonta Smith, and Devonta Smith. That should be 6 people. So that's how I broke down my tier. All these guys will go in the second round. And I didn't put them in the order, so no particular order there. Just keep that in mind, because I was just looking at it.
Sure.
Devontae Adams, a guy, yes, I do have concerns about what's going to be happening with Jimmy G. A.J. Brown taking another step here with Jalen Hurts in his future quarterback. Amon-Ra losing Jameson Williams in the first 6 games, but you insert Jahmyr Gibbs. What does that look like? Et cetera, essentially for the rest of these wide receivers. Garrett Wilson getting Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Waddle continuing to play where he's at. And then tier 3, I have T. Higgins, Chris Olave, Deebo Samuel, and Amari Cooper. Okay. And that's kind of how my tiers are broken down.
Sure.
Once again, all those guys in T. Higgins, Olave in tier 3 could potentially go at the end of the second or all the way to late third, just really depending on how teams are built. And I think wide receivers, we're going to see a lot more going, especially in redraft leagues, especially depending on how your leagues are constructed. So once again, it just all depends on, everyone's different in tiers making. This is all very fluid. A lot of things will change here.
Sure.
But that's how I had my tiers constructed.
Okay. No, I definitely hear you. I think like the main thing I focus on with my tiers is what I draft these players right beside each other. You know what I mean? Like if Justin Jefferson's off the board, am I waiting for wide receiver or do I go Cooper Kupp or Tyreek, you know? So that's how I kind of constructed mine, but I get what you're saying as far as like the range of outcomes with these players. I kind of just take into the state of mind of what I would do when I'm drafting.
For sure.
But that's, I don't know how many, that could be 30 wide receivers.
That is a lot of wide receivers. I mean,
yeah. Names that I think
just under a minute and a half here, by the way.
Sorry?
Just under a minute and a half here.
Okay. Names that I think we might get hate for not having up there, and I just don't know where to rank them yet. Godwin, Evans, I don't know.
100%.
I don't know what to do with Baker Mayfield. Show me success from Baker Mayfield for his fantasy wide receivers. Agree. Christian Kirk, I could be too low on him. Tyler Lockett, could be too low on him.
I think Christian Kirk can sneak in. That's what I would say.
I think so too. Yeah, it's just tough at this moment with Ridley there.
Yeah.
Kirk was really volume based. Okay, that is it for today. Do us a massive favor. Drop a like to show some support. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content. And comment down below. Tell us what you think we're wrong on. And honestly, it's very early. These will change. So thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy. Even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.